Yes, I'll start over again. Thank you very much for the two previous excellent speakers about laying the grounds of how the important is the intersectional analysis in science and technology, as well as why the East is working hard to make it as a global standard. So I was very fortunate to be included in this Londa's work on intersectional analysis. And I wasn't sure what I could do at the beginning, but Londa insisted that I can be on the committee and then give some insights. So I followed her team, and I'm very glad that it's all working very well. So I went through the uh, EASE website and see how our work is going to display. And this is the paper that just described the gist, and then it includes the checklist that I'm going to present how we are translating this. And this is the platform where EASE is putting all this uh, original paper as well as the translations. And I see Korean is coming soon, so yeah, let's make it real. Okay, so we are trying to make this real. Okay. So when I was asked when I heard about this translation work, we are all familiar with translating or accepting, taking the research tools or guidelines or checklists that are developed in the US or Europe in English, but we take the form and then use in our country, right? So all these things, when after they are developed, they are used in varying circumstances. Even within the same country, they are used by researchers with different cultural or language background, but also in populations with diverse culture or language or in the globally. And these days, multicultural or multinational researchers are increasing. So adapting these tools in a comparable way is becoming more and more important. So it often requires not only the translation, but cultural adaptation and then acceptability by the scientific research community. So I've done several translations, including gender variables, but there were some comments that this should be done in more systematic way. So I looked through the literature and found that the Beaton method that seems to be widely accepted by researchers. And she proposes 5 steps. So first step is double translation. You have dual translators, and each person translates, and then one person sits down and then synthesize into one version. Okay, and then you back translate. This we have never done, right? This was quite often done because you have several members and they all look through and then make comments. But you do the back translation, which means from the initial or integrated version to US to English fluent people to translate back to English. And then I asked Londa and Irina to see whether they are comparable to the original English version. Then I took their comments and we had language expert comments. That was very important for me at this stage. And then final stage is pre-testing of your instrument. Okay. So what we have done, so we have tried to follow as closely as this model, because this is the first time for me at least to try this. So we have 2 translators, one in biomedical science and one in social science. And they made the translation and I integrated them into the one version. And I sent them to, I sent the integrated version to Londa and Irina. And no. I asked 2 English fluent people to back translate, and one person is English language major, and the other one was the one with more than 20 years of experience in research and paper writing, and then research design and so on. So I sent these two versions to the authors, to Londa and Irina, and got the comments from them. I'll go into that later. And then I took their comments and did some modification, but also checked for Korean with a Korean specialist. I explained what was raised from you, and then we sort of work on together. So after I got these comments on Korean, I have a new version that was sent to all the members, and then I got their response. And then here we are. We have this webinar. And then after this webinar, I have a meeting with this people from editorial community, and then I'll get their comments, and as well as how we can use them in Korea. Okay. And then finally, I want to get it done to IS, and then as well as GISTer website, maybe before Christmas. Okay. Now, some remarks that I want to make about this process. I was a little curious about back translation, but it was quite effective and informative. Especially, I could get comments on our translation. And as we all know, some words cannot be one-to-one translated. So Korean translators used try to explain in our own term. And when it was back translated, it's not the same English word that was originally put in there. So how can we do that? And especially some words, we will use these three words quite often in Korean. We also just say that in English. Yeah, we cover this one. So it was very difficult to find Korean word exactly the same. And compound, as Londa pointed out, is a very important terminology in intersectional analysis, I realize. But it's not really, cannot be translated directly into Korean. So these words are very difficult to translate at the beginning, but also was not consistent by the two translators. So these were the words that I talked with the Korean language specialist. Besides this this terminology problem, the Korean specialist made very important comments I think, to science authors, science writers. So we should avoid using passive form as much as possible. In Korea, it's not common to use passive form. But for example, the factors were measured, right? But we don't say that you measure this one. But you don't have to put the subject. It's not really required in Korean language. You just say active form, and you can just know who did this action from the context. So use the active form as much as possible. Also, we don't use semicolon in Korean sentence. So she advised that do not use semicolon, but make it into the sentence what that was put in there. So if you don't see semicolon in our checklist, don't get upset. We have this meaning in our checklist, but we just do not have the semicolon. It's not common in Korean. Okay. So and also when you list the things, you put comma and then at the end. And in Korean, it's not really necessary. But if you want to put, it's okay, but you have to do it consistently. So there were some things that the science authors should learn from the Korean language expert. And so all these comments are integrated in this in this translated checklist. I don't want to expect to read this, but this will be the one that we'll discuss. So in summary, research tools, we are often borrowing from U.S. or European community, but we have to translate and adapt it uh, to our language as well as culturally. And this process should be systematic and transparent. So we did it by following beaten method. And comments and the process as well as contents will make the process stronger, I think. So after review by journal editors and comments from the science community in Korea, we will finish and then put into EASE and then GIST website. So I want to acknowledge all the works that were done by the committee members, and then 3 invited commentators that will give us the feedback, as well as all the participants, and then also GISTER staff for taking care of all these matters. Thank you very much.